Hey Keith, this is Chris. This is a bit of a weird um, video because I'm creating something custom, but I'm only partially creating it because there's an element that I need you to fix. And so I wanted to introduce this workflow as well as illustrate what I need you to fix. Um, so we have our raw code in Arkin Universal for things like Arkin UI button. And so then this has all the things you're familiar with. What I have done is I have made a new um, thing that's called Do Any Custom Button Stuff, which is on the controllers for that, and it passes in the button. And you can then cast the button to any sort of subclass it might have, and then it would do whatever it needs to do. Our assumption with non-custom buttons is that they only need to get text, so that's what they do. Um, but I don't want to assume long-term that any button is going to do. I mean, who knows what it might do? The magic of inheritance, woohoo! So in our external code, Um, we've got a ship label button, which I'm putting into custom controls here. And this inherits from button, and then it overrides initialize and on update for the subclass. And then all it does is call the root stuff in both cases. And then it has an additional sub images array which can be filled in, and then it iterates over those. Now the sub images works. This code is identical to that on Arkin image button, which is basically used for Arkin UI image button, which is used for the sidebar image button, which as you can see for this thing, go ahead and show it in this view. This is what's used in the sidebar, and we've got an Arkin UI image button that then has sub images, which has reference to each um, literal image element and the actual object of the element as well. It's just they're technically on the same game object, but it's got a reference to the element, the mono behavior, the component, whatever you want to call it, and the for the image, and then the actual object itself, just because baking it in saves some time. So we've got all these elements here, which our custom class is able to turn on and off. One of them is even nested. We've got the border, and then we've got the icon within that. That way they scale with one another. Nothing real surprising going on with this. And then you can see in the custom code, how it is able to assign to all of these things, and it does so by index in the sub images class. There's no navigating of the Unity hierarchy. So what I want to do is set up the same sort of thing for instance, our construction buttons or tech buttons or whatever. Basically, we have a standard button blue, and we would normally have an Arkin UI button here, but instead, we should have a ship label button instead, our new custom class specifically for this one purpose. Now, because we want this bit to be open source and easily moddable, I want this to be in AI War external code. However, even though I see in Arkin DLLs that the AI War external code is indeed there, um, that's a really out of date copy. And because this is external code, it's not naturally being copied into the Arkin DLLs folder, which is probably desirable in the other projects. For the AW2 modding and GUI project, I'm not sure if that's desirable or not. I'm not really sure how we want to handle that particular code. So that's problem number one, which is for you. I mean, this would be something I could solve easily if I just put it into, um, you know, one of the other code classes, like AOW core visualization or something like that. So thing number two, which I'm just going to go ahead and set up now just for the sake of illustration, is that we've got button blue here, and then um, this is going to have some sub images here. Basically, what I'm thinking of at the moment that I want to do is I want to draw a, first of all, some text, and I want to have it offset a certain amount to the side. And then secondly, um, I want for there to be, I guess, two images. We could say three, because I want to be able to put in some ship graphics, um, including a flare. The question is whether I put it in the border or not, really. So, okay, if I click to game, then I can look at this as well. But it's going to be easier to manipulate here. I can click on image. I can then just drag this sucker around, and it's changing left, top, right, etc. Since I've got this set to expand, this is set to um, handle itself based off of offsets, which is nice. So I'm gonna do, you know what? I'm not even gonna think I can. Yeah, good. Well, this is doing a literal scale, which is gonna potentially lead to some interesting. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If I make this wider, oh, that makes that wider too. That's no good. So really what I want is, I think, this. So if this gets taller, I want this to get taller as well, but I want it to get taller at the same rate that it's getting. Whoops, not that. So taller, wider, good. Taller, not as good. I want this to maintain a fixed, I want this to maintain a fixed resolution, which I can do by, first of all, let's come in here. We've got our icons. My intent is to use the white ones. And then, of course, if you wanted to colorize them, then you could choose something else. I'm just going to choose this one as the source image. Type is simple. Preserve aspect is yeah. And then now, when I scale this, all right, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of doing what I want. It's close enough. We're not really going to be, well, let's see about this. Yes. Okay. That I'm happy with, because you're most likely going to be scaling this down rather than up. So this is probably good enough. We'll see. We may have to do some tuning on that. What we can then next, so this would be ship icon, and then I just hit D to duplicate, drag this underneath, and we'll call this flare. And this one is going to be anchored to the bottom center, and it should keep its size relative to the parent. So now just going to pick some random flare here. Okay, so it's got its original ratio, which is good. Um, the width and the height on these don't really matter since they're bounds. When you've got preserve aspect on. If I didn't, then the width and height would matter because it would expand to fit. But instead, they work as bounds, and whichever one fits best, it'll fit to that. So Hooray, preserve aspect, making things easy. Okay, so then we can take the whole ship icon, move it up just a little bit because now we've kind of off-centered how it feels. So we can look at this thing and say, aha, there's that. You can kind of see what's going on. That's awfully small, but better than nothing, I suppose. Um, let's go ahead and increase the width on this a little bit. And we'll take this whole thing, move this over to the side a little bit. And all right, that feels a little bit better to me now. Maybe I'll move the flare up just a tad more. Okay, so, play with that all day. Select this for the prefab here. So what I'm gonna do here is underneath buttons, I'm gonna have a new one called ships that is just ship buttons. And I'm gonna call this blue ship button and put this under here. Now this still isn't quite right because we've got the numeral 1, which is overlaying this. So at this point, our text, we're going to want to give a left offset of about this. Yeah. And so now when we make the width something else, does like that, which is good. The height, something else, does like that, which is good. So I want this to be 160 and 30, which is the default. And so if I do this, ship name, then basically we've got our ship button here. So, you know, if you wanted to get the mark level in there or something like that, we actually could do that to the side more. Why not? I think that might actually make some sense. So we'll just duplicate this again for the sake of simplicity. Mark level, and I'm gonna get rid of the flare and this thing, just drag it over a little bit, worry about the size in a minute. And so this is under here. I will just select a random mark. I don't even care. Preserve aspect. These all have the same sizes. And so we've got that now, which is, far too big, of course. And so I'm going to scale that down a little bit. Whoa, boy. Accidentally went into 2D view. And then I'm going to move this over a little bit. And voila. That looks off-centered with the ship name. So this is centered, supposed to be centered. So the top and the bottom, I will just, I will give it a little bit of a nudge like that to make it center better. Okay. And again, it's something we could play with all day, but it's just really easy for us to go in there and tune that. Now, as I shrink the width, this is going to mess up, which is fine. What we want to do now is come in here, just add ourselves a little bit more buffer. We have some spacing from the thing there. And so now go back to 160. So I'm going to assume that we've got the mark level and the icon, which is going to be our main method of differentiating this. And so now we've got fighter or whatever in there. And so this is centered in this particular area. We wanted to make it right aligned, then we could. If we were going to do that, then we'd want to, add in some padding on the right a little bit more to make it so that it's not bumping up against the edge, but I don't want to do that. We could make it left aligned, but I don't necessarily feel that's going to be beneficial either. So there we are. We've got ourselves a blue ship button. And if you needed this to be um, by default some different aspect ratio, then it's best to go ahead and just alter the prefab to have that different aspect ratio, and then um, go from there. So what you're going to then want to do is select and go to the actual prefab here. And as you've noted, go ahead and zero out the position X and Y. And then we definitely need to put this in the Arkin UI asset bundle. Couldn't see that, but and then make sure and do save all assets after that. And of course, the build of the asset bundle. And then the last piece is I've got this XML already open, but in the CMB Arkin UI prefabs here, got button styles. And so we would now have, you would reference this in XML by this, as you know, but I'm kind of just mentioning this for anybody else who's watching. So we've got, fine, we'll call we'll call it blue ship button that way. So, and then but this is under buttons, ships, and Control U to make that lowercase and save. So now in the XML can reference this at any point, and then on the no, wrong thing. On the button abstract base, override, do any custom button stuff, and it'll be passing in the Arkin UI button, but then cast that to ship label button, and then in that do any custom button stuff, you're going to be able to reference the sub images directly because these are public, and then just go in by index, and you can assign these into index here, just like this. And so you should have like index 1, index 2, index 3. And what I did with the custom sidebar thing, let's see, where is that? That open outline sidebar, yes I do. So what I did was I just made constants here so that I could reference it more easily. So then I just said sub images, this constant wrapper image update with type data GUI sprite icon border. And in this particular case, you've got type data GUI sprite flare. And so there's also a type data GUI sprite icon white. And so you're going to want GUI sprite icon white, GUI sprite icon flare, etc. And the mark level images, we could make it so that these are not, may as well make that public. So then you can just should be able to just call window in game out. This is getting called on game starts. It's going ahead and populating this. So you can just call window in game outline sidebar underscore sprite mark levels and get them by numeric index 1 through 5. 0 is null. And yeah, then you can just assign those 3 things in, and boom, you've got yourself some icons and buttons. It's not icons embedded in text. That's a different proposition. But in this particular case, it's not really what I want, because I want these icons to be arranged in a very specific way over here to the left. And if Blue comes in here and says, oh no, this isn't a good way to arrange it, well, then she can just come in here in a WYSIWYG fashion and say, oh, this should be up here, and whatever, and adjust these things. And then after she hits apply, then she can come down here to always Blue. The process would be you hit apply, hit select, come into the thing, hit position 0, 0, and then click out of it, save all assets, and then you're ready to go. And then if you're wanting to actually see it in the game, hit build Windows Asset Bundle, which nothing was different. So it just flashed by in a second there, and it said done doing it at this particular time. So, um, okay. So assuming that um, you get it, so this can read the external classes, then this would just be, you know, the ship button class there, and then you can set up the handler in the tech and all that stuff too. Um, Blue likes to, build specialized buttons for things um, like the um, let's say for the queue, for instance, or the tech menu or something like that. So we could have different buttons with that, or we can have a little um, bit of text up here that she can pre-render, or that we can do in whatever font that says like tech menu or queue or whatever. Obviously, we can't get too busy with that, but really, it makes it so there's a tremendous amount of freedom um, for us to have some buttons with a bit of a visual element to them. And yeah, that's the process. All right. Thanks for watching.